Hi everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thanks so much for joining me today. In my last video, I took two pairs of black skinny jeans and put them together into one pair of wide leg jeans. And I love the results, but it was an experiment from start to finish, and I cannot say that it would be perfect for beginners. It was not easy, and it was sort of fun, but quite challenging. And so I've been thinking about it and trying to just pare it down into its most simple steps, because I did love the results, and I want to encourage you to take your old skinny jeans and try to rework them. So I've been having fun going through my old jeans and also thrifting some jeans, and I found a couple pairs that I'm going to work with today. So again, I'll be putting two pairs of skinny jeans together, but this time got it down to a science. It's going to be super easy, so if you're a beginner, you can do this. So I picked up a couple pairs of jeans. One is American Eagle, super skinny, but there's a hole in the knee. I don't really want a hole in the knee, so I'll be getting rid of that. And then the other pair is sort of weird, T and Y. I don't know what T and Y jeans are, but there's some weird detailing on here, like this. What the heck is that? And then use this back pocket. I don't love that back pocket, so I'm going to be removing all that. So when I get back from the thrift store, I always throw everything right in the washing machine, so it's all clean and fresh and ready for me to work with. So all of this is ready to go. You do want to start with two jeans that more or less fit you. You'll have some room for adjusting the fit, but that does sort of complicate things if the fit is really off. And in the video with the black jeans, I lowered the crotch so that I could raise the whole thing up because I wanted a higher waist. I'm not going to do that this time, just going to keep it simple. So what I'll do is decide which jeans are already the higher waisted ones, because I want to go with a higher waist. I know there's some debate right now about whether or not we should embrace low rise jeans again. I'm not going there. I'm sticking with the high rise. Okay, so to find out which ones are the highest, I'm just going to bring the two jeans together right where those seams intersect. I'll put my two jeans together and just see which one is higher waisted, and it's this one. This is the one I'll use for the center panel then, which is good because these are the ones I'll use for the side panel. And I like this detailing of that pocket. I was drawn to that pocket, but I do not like the back of these jeans. So I'm going to be removing that pocket, removing this weird thing, and removing half of the pocket on the one that's going to be the center panel, because this is the pocket I'm going to be using, but I'm not going to be using the side. I'm not going to be using the side of these jeans, so I'll have to remove the side parts, like unpick half of these two pockets. Got it? Okay, so I'm going to do some unpicking, and then we'll start cutting up these jeans. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be pretty easy, I promise. So if you're a beginner and you got skinny jeans and you want to make them into wide leg jeans, you're going to be good. So if that all sounds good to you, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell too, so that you get notified every time I put out a video, because I'd love to have you along for the ride for those too. I am ready to jump in. Let's cut up these jeans.
Okay, so the first thing is unpicking. And on a pocket, the hardest part to unpick is this bar tack. You can slide your seam ripper right into all those stitches at once and cut across, and then try to go in between the layers. So I've removed the pockets and the funny labels, so that's all gone. And I've removed half the pocket of the jeans that I'm using the center panel of, because I'm going to be cutting right through here, so that half the pocket had to come off. Good. Okay. So now we're going to start cutting the jeans. So for this part, it's great if you have a meter stick or yardstick, but if not, you can use just as long a ruler as you have. And I love the friction pens, but you can also just use a pencil. Don't use something like a Sharpie that'll never wash out, but something like a pencil is just fine, but something washable is better. So I've got both jeans sort of face to face here. These with that big pocket detail that I like, that's what I want to keep as the side. So I want the center seam, the seam between the two panels, I want it about here. I don't want to cut into that nice pocket detail. So my seam is going to be actually quite a bit closer to the center than I realized. There. And I want to make that same mark, that corresponding mark, onto these jeans. Good. So that's going to be the sewing line where they join together. So it's important that they line up. And then the same idea on the back. I'll flip them to be back to back. And again, line them up even with each other, getting those centers matched up. And then where I want the seam to be on here is probably just midway through the pocket. Good. And then again, I want that same line to line up with the other jeans. Okay, so that's the seam line, the sewing line for both. Okay, these jeans are so dark that I think I will use wax to mark my line. And these are the ones that I'm using the side panel. So if that's my sewing line, I need to add seam allowance to the outside of it. Not going toward the part that I'm using that removes fabric. I want to add fabric here. So I'm adding 1 more inch to the section that I'm going to be using. And I want to use as much of the leg as I can. So I'm going to connect my cutting line here with this inside edge of the leg. And I'm going to draw that line and cut right on that line. These ones are actually a little bit of a flare. They're not really skinny. So again, there's my sewing line, and I want to add an extra inch of fabric to that side. And then connecting this to the inside edge of the leg. If you don't have a meter stick, you can take 2 rulers, put their edges together kind of like that. So you're using this edge and then this edge. But by lining those rulers up together, you know you're still getting a good straight line. And just double check before you cut. Just make sure you've added the inch, adding extra fabric to the piece you want. You're not taking off an inch. You'll see what I mean, because we're doing the opposite on the other jeans, and so it does get confusing. So I'm cutting those, but just on the single layer. I'm just cutting the back, not cutting right through to the front. Okay, good. So there's the back cut. And flip. So again, it's the side panel that I'm using from these. There's my sewing line, and I'm going to go 1 more inch. I'm just going to bump it right into that seam there. So just double check you're adding that extra inch of fabric to the piece that you want to keep. Good. So there's one side panel. So this is all that's left of that first pair of jeans. I've seen some fun projects done where they use this inseam as a strap or something like that. So I'll add that into my denim scrap bin. So even this much is not going into the landfill. Good. So there are my 2 side panels. Here's the pair that I'm using for the center panel, because this is the higher waist, the longer rise. This is my sewing line. I want to come out 1 inch. This belt carrier is right in my way, so I think I'll just unpick that. You can see I'm pushing hard, so I have to make sure my left hand is well out of the way, because you can give yourself a bad stab. So with that belt loop out of the way now, I'm going to come over 1 inch from my sewing line. And now it's the center I'm using, right? So you remember you're adding fabric to the part you're using, so that's why I'm coming out. And then I want to use as much of the leg this way, so this line is going to connect with the outside edge of the ankle. And then I'm going to cut that just a single layer, just the front. So I'm using the center panel, add 1 inch to the fabric I want to keep. I just can't say that enough times, because it's so easy to go to the wrong side, and then you're making the jeans too small. It's not going to work. And I'm keeping the center panel, so I'm going toward that outside of the leg. Connect from there, and I'm ignoring this hole in the leg at this point. We'll figure that out later. So So there's the front panel, and let's cut the back. So it's the center I'm using. So I'm adding fabric to the part that I'm using, drawing this line out toward the outside edge of the leg. There's my sewing line, adding extra fabric to the part I'm keeping. I know I've said that 8 times now, but honestly, you will get confused. I have to keep myself from getting confused. I'm just cutting right down the rest of that leg. Okay, and here we are now. There's the side panel and the back panel, and I'm going to just pin those wrong sides together. And I've given myself an inch of seam allowance just so I have that little bit of wiggle room. But I'm going to sew it first of all, or I'm just going to pin it initially. Just pin it and try it on that way before I even sew it. So this is going to be way easier to fit on myself than the way I did it in the video with the black jeans. And it's going to be way easier to sew, because if you saw that video, you saw that I had to sew it like in the tube because I've overlapped the pieces. Here, going wrong sides together, it's super easy. And I'll have like a double layer of the raw edge. If you wanted a cleaner look, if you just wanted a seam here instead of the raw edge showing, you could definitely go right sides together and your seam would be on the inside. If you do want that cleaner look and you do it right sides together, then to just adjust your fit, put them on inside out so that you've got the seam allowance sticking out like this, and you'll be able to fit them on yourself really easily. So eventually, once I get the fit down right, I'll bring that pocket back across. Kind of cool too, so I'm okay with that. These 2 pieces at this point, I'm just going to put together. But I might end up, I don't know what yet, we'll see. I might do a little patch on top or behind that seam just to keep it together. I don't know yet. Okay, time to try these on with them just pinned like that. I'm going to try them on and then make whatever adjustments I like. So I'll show you what they look like.
One thing I definitely want to stress though is be really careful when you're stepping into these pants with all those pins there, especially toward the bottom. I can really imagine plunking your heel down onto one of those pins. That would not be good. So no, we are not there yet. It's too big. I don't want to take the seams in here though. I want to take it all in from the back, because if I take it in here, those seams are going to be too close to the center. And you can see that there's just too much of this section, because this is the one that was flared. It kind of comes across too much and makes this weird shape. So I don't really love what's going on right now. So I'm going to take them off, repin smaller in the back, repin the side panel to be straighter, not flaring in. Fuzzy.
And I've repinned both legs and made sure that I had them even. Now, if you are using 2 jeans that are both actually skinny, you won't have this problem. You will just sew them evenly because they should be about the same anyway if they're both skinny. I'm just having this problem because one of these jeans is actually flared. Okay, so on a basting stitch now, that long stitch, because I might still want to do some more fitting. This is still just in the test stage. And then I'll try it on one more time before I complete it. So I'm just following from pin to pin so that I get the fit that I want. Okay, and I'll sew both legs the same, and I'll try them on one more time to double check the fit.
Okay, making progress. It's much better around the waist now. I took it all in the back, and then I did a little bit of off-camera fitting, removing some of the fabric from the side panel, smoothing it out and repinning. So I've got quite a bit taken out of the other panel. The back I did more evenly. The pockets will go back on like that. That's not bad.
I've been working on the fit and I got all 4 of the seams sewn with a permanent stitch after playing around quite a bit with it. And now I want to throw it in the washing machine to get this to all fray nicely, but I don't want to wash it until I get the pocket stitched back on. Otherwise that's going to all fray and I won't be able to get the pocket back on nicely. So even though that's not even frayed yet, I am going to sew the pocket back on now. So I just looked in my stash and was dismayed that I don't have any heavy top stitching thread like in that goldy color that they use on denim. I don't have that. What I do have though is this. Have you ever seen double eye needles? Can you see that there's two eyes there? Can you see that? Anyway, so what I can do with that is use two sort of reasonable colors. I hope I don't make many mistakes because I only have a tiny bit of this gold. Kind of mix it together with this beige. It'll have to do the trick because I don't want to run to the store just for that. So I'm going to put this needle in and run both of these threads through. They each get their own hole in the needle, and then it sort of magically stitches with a double thread instead of one heavy thread. So those two threads I'm going to put together and just thread my machine like normal with two threads together. I'll thread the upper eye and then the lower eye, and then we're good to go. So let's try that. I'm sticking a few pins back in my pocket just so it doesn't shift around when I'm sewing it. I'll do a back tack here and then go around the inside edge and then come back on the outside edge. It's nice because the original sewing lines are just still so clear. That top stitch actually looks pretty good, right? It looks like a heavier thread, but it's just those two threads being combined into one. If you're at all worried about your machine going through thicker fabrics like these layers of denim, just go slowly over the really thick parts. And sometimes you even have to move the wheel with your hand, like to kind of persuade it into every stitch. Okay, that's pretty good, hey? So that's the pocket sewn back on. I'm going to go throw these in the washing machine now and then in the dryer, so I'll show you what they look like in about 2 hours.
Okay, success. So I didn't think I was even gonna like these until right now. I just got them out of the dryer. I washed and dried them again to get the seam to really ruffle up nice. And so I'm dying to show you. So I'm totally thrilled with these. I just love them. I can't wait to wear them out today. I didn't know if I could love anything as much as I love the black jeans from my last video, but this process was so much easier. Putting the pieces wrong side together and sewing it that way, that was just so much easier than trying to sew it in the tube like I did in the black jeans video. So this is perfect for beginners. You can do this. Just spend that time doing your fitting, like pinning it on both seams. Spend the time doing that because it's so worth it. And I hope you had fun with that. I hope you try it yourself. Let me know in the comments below if you do give it a shot. Let me know how it turns out. And if you liked today's video, you know what you gotta do. Hit the thumbs up button and hit subscribe too. It means a lot to me. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you back next time on Catherine Sews. You take care.